Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Iron Fanfics, back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Becomes Danny Phantom. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. He couldn't do this anymore. He couldn't. He didn't want to try. His injuries may have faded, but it doesn't mean the memories have. The why on his torso, the burns, his bones, his blood, his organs, even his ice-based core. But his mind didn't. His soul didn't. Blamed for everything that goes wrong, even when he didn't do it. No credit for what he did right. Parents that would never accept him. Always after his ghost half. And now in either form. As if he chose this. As if he asked to die. As if he asked to become a freak. As if they didn't do this through their negligence. His friends were drifting away, leaving him behind. It would have been fine. It was okay to become distant as they all grew up. Jazz said so. But they blamed and envied him in equal measure. Vlad was taking control of Amity Park, digging his fingers so deep they became the roots of this small town. And as the monster expanded his reach across cities, states, nations, and even the boy's closest friends and family, the abuse he faced also expanded. If Danny tried to escape, tried to leave Amity Park, his haunt, he was punished. Finding out his own friends would sell him out for power was too much. He had nowhere to escape that he wouldn't be found while on Earth. No one he could turn to that hasn't turned on him or would be in danger if they tried to help. Ancients forbid if Danny was caught because of him. Vlad would destabilize her the second he got the chance. Val was mostly safe as she was Vlad's ex-hunter. Jazz was safe because she was their parents' favorite and they didn't have technology delicate enough to detect her contamination. Danny couldn't do this anymore. The ghost zone was his only real place to go. But the ghosts don't like him. He'd have to have one eye open at all times. Despite Danny saving them from hunters on multiple occasions. Even that was too tiring to think of. And with his ghost obsession becoming almost null, he'd become volatile. No one deserves facing him if he destabilized too much. He was alone. He was always so alone. He has been since his half-death. Danny just wanted to not exist. Or at least not exist here. So, he wandered in the least explored depths of the infinite realms. Among doors upon doors. For once, these ever-changing doors would be useful. He found himself stalking a green-haired child. Or well, teen. But the other was probably younger by almost 2 years. Or excessively short. Not really what he expected when he threw himself into this world. Not that he should have expected anything. It was probably amazing luck that he ended up on another version of Earth with humans as the population. Even though the way many of them looked was strange. The kid he was following actually looked the most normal, despite his black and green hair. Perhaps it was his loneliness that had him following the other? Perhaps his kinship to their situation, since it was so similar? He also didn't expect everyone and their mother to have superpowers. At first, he had followed a weird-fingered student to their classes, curious about how this new world functions. One of the first around his age, though younger, that he had seen. He guessed that this was a middle school, as everyone looked quite young. He just wished he knew what they were saying. He watched as Mr. Multi-Joint Fingers joined a group, where a blonde seemed to be its main focus. Said blonde looked more human in appearance than a quite few of his peers, though his face was weirdly muzzle-like. It was subtle, but it made him look like a growling dog when he threw one of his yelling fits. Red eyes, harsh and biting, made Danny instantly weary. He'd met very few creatures among the multiverse with red eyes. Most of whom were not exactly kind. It seemed Danny had gained a general distrust of such characters, even when he knew it was not fair. He tried not to let such stereotypes affect how he views others, but thinks it might be right in this case when the blonde starts bullying a boy with green hair. Not just any type of bullying either. The blonde had the power to make explosions. Danny was bothered by this kid's mindset. After all, who thinks to set off such a dangerous power against another person? Especially on their skin? Next to their face? Or use them for practice like a living punching bag? But all the people in this world have powers, right? Some of them more hidden than others, but they had them. So the curly-haired kid could probably fight back. Any moment now, the other boy would unleash his power and show those bullies that he wouldn't take this lying down. Except he wasn't. The kid, with broccoli green hair, just shrank in on himself. He was obviously scared, pleading in a language Danny didn't know. And the Halfa came to a sickening realization as he made a ceiling panel drop in the hull to lure the bullies away, watching as the fluffy broccoli child ran away and Danny followed. Danny was one of 3 humans with superpowers in his world. He held the ability to commit heinous actions or save people. The average Joe wouldn't be able to do anything against him. But in a world where the average Joe had powers, what happened to those on the flipped side of the coin? Those who didn't have powers? They could not protect themselves, could they? Or were not allowed to. They were at the mercy of everyone around them. Green Boy scrunches his eyes, fighting off tears, then nisses it up and straightens his back. He plasters a smile and Danny knows that smile. Has made that smile. The one where you pretend everything is okay. That you'll make it. The smile that stretched ear to ear, taking up as much room as possible, covering one's face as a substitute for a mask. The same smile he would give his parents after they shot at him again, or threatened his death and dissection, or said he wasn't a hero. Maybe this kid was like that too? Of course, Danny followed him. After all, freaks of a feather stick. Together, Danny has been following the green-haired teen for almost a week and a half by this point. In that time, he learned many things about this world. And about the green-haired teen. He learned about how different this world really was. That is to say, not much. Yes, in this world, powers are normal. From adding more joints to your fingers and lifting small objects with your mind, to summoning fire and the ability to become a giant. There were many unique powers. Danny would fit right in. Something that should have overjoyed him. Something he has wanted for so long. But it didn't. Not when the parallels to his world bled through the rosy glass of his first perceptions. Villains were a dime a dozen. The ghosts may have tried to hurt him, but they never did any of the vile actions that a common street criminal would do here. Ghosts may scare people for fun. They may take over a human's body. Heck, they'll even steal valuable items they have no use for. But they didn't beat people for the sick fascination and feeling of power. They don't use that power on those weaker than them. At least, in excess. That was a Vlad thing. Danny detested it. And heroes don't care. They only seem to save others when they are watched. They weren't real heroes. Sycophants in spandex. Flashy powers boasting ego. Fame-famished hollow hearts chasing glory. They forget their mortality. Young gods who forget that they can die. They act as if they play the protagonists. Each and every one of them losing what it means to be human. It angered him to see these people have the job he had before. Except it was considered an actual job. They got paid. They could out their identity if they wanted. And they abused their power. Even civilians were bad. A-list bullies could get away with anything if they had a flashy enough power or picked on those without. They were more violent. They could do no wrong though. Not when teachers turned a blind eye to victims of this severe abuse. And for the green-haired teen, it was worse. Danny saw the red-eyed blonde set explosion after explosion at the other teen. On the other's belongings. Near his ears and face. Even on the teen's clothes and skin. Star-shaped bursts painted the freckled boy. The scars left over faded almost completely into skin. It seemed that red targeted that same spots over and over again. A cycle of violence fueled by the knowledge that the green boy was unable to fight back. The same way people in his world treated him, except he had powers and could fight back if it ever came down to it. It was somehow worse knowing that Green couldn't. But Danny didn't do anything. He felt horrible, but he didn't know what to do. This was another world. He didn't know the language being used. He didn't even know what time PRD it was. He probably shouldn't interfere until he knew more. That didn't stop him from trying to get the others to leave the green boy alone. He wouldn't directly intervene, but that doesn't mean he won't help. And so, they had a rhythm. Danny watched the dumpster fire that was this teen's life, reflecting on the world he left, wondering what to do now. Today had been different. It didn't start differently. Danny had been sleeping on the couch in the green boy's house. Hey, he needed to sleep somewhere. He'd also eat some small amounts of food every now and then. It was a good thing he didn't need to eat as much as a regular person, or he would feel even more guilty than he does already. Then school with Green, where Danny would see the other get mentally and physically beaten down. The class was excited about something, parading their powers across the classroom. And the red-eyed bully sheet-talked, he could tell, and offended all the others. Then, the teacher singled Green out to get picked on by the class. God, this dude's life was bad. The main bully and 2 lackeys, one of which being the multi-joint kid, stayed behind after class was dismissed. Red yelled at Green. He took the other's notebook, yelled more in a snide tone, set an explosion, and threw it out the window. Green looked like he was angry and was about to stand up for himself. Then another threat from Red left him cowering. Said something that made Green's eyes widen in disbelief, to which he looked out the window sadly. Danny hoped he misread that. He hoped that Green was looking sadly after his tossed notebook and not contemplating doing something that Red told him to do. That would probably end very badly for Red. Even if this world didn't punish him, Danny would. And even if this world didn't save Green, Danny would do that too. The day was just getting worse and worse. Kidnapped by a villain, Danny was stopped just shy of saving Green when a hero stepped in. Only for Green to latch on as the hero leapt away. Danny got to the rooftop they landed on just in time to see the hero transform into a giraffe man. They had a conversation and the hero left Green on the roof, sadder than before. Oof, having your idol cheat on you for looking up to them is really hard. And Green looked on, past the rooftop, walking loose to the balcony-styled ledge. As Danny lurked behind the teen, waiting to see their actions, an explosion stunned them both. And Izuku walked down the steps and towards the sound of more explosions. Then the villain popped up again. Except, this time he had Red in his grasp. None of the heroes were doing anything. Next thing he knew, Fenton was running. He was trying to save Red. This kid. He was trying to save a person who had continuously hurt him and beat him down. Running in to try to help, even though he didn't have powers. And Danny? Danny was inspired. To see someone actually behaving like a hero. A real one. It was then, at that moment, Danny knew. He'd make a hero out of this kid. And that hero from earlier came in his buff form and blew away the villain. Green was walking away from the scene after the heroes chastised him for trying to save Red. Honestly, Danny thinks Green did more than them. They were just standing around. Red came to yell at Green again, and so the kid took a different path between buildings. He had managed to find a park, planting himself on a swing. Green buried his face in his hands. His shoulders gently shuddered. Danny could hear him sniffle and expel air repeatedly. And that was enough for Danny. It was too much for Danny. He was suddenly visible for any to see, had anyone else been around, that is. The glow his spectral form gave off made Green pause, then slowly shift his head upward. Only for the human to still, eyes wide. He knew how he and other ghosts saw themselves was not how humans saw them. Sam had said it looked like he was a living form made of lightning. His body was solid yet shifting, hair constantly caught in a non-existent breeze, and his eyes were pools of glowing green ectoplasm. His hazmat was still there, but not unaffected, shifting with the lightning of his body. It didn't even look like a costume. Part of him was glad now to have removed the logo that once sat proudly on his chest. If anything, it appeared to others that he had white, clawed hands. White forearms blended to a black that ate the light around it. The same for his feet and legs where his boots were. His own face looked like a mask put on a void. Due to the fact most can't perceive the supernatural, and especially not the interdimensional, it's hard for a person's mind to understand what was in front of them. Danny was scary. He knew that. He could see it in the other's eyes. He probably thought Danny was another villain to be added to his horrible day. Or a monster. Danny tried to tell the voice in his head to shut up. Though perhaps the frustration at his own thoughts was easy to read, seeing as the other flinched back. Poor thing. Danny held out his hand to Green. He tried to exude gentleness and sympathy. The other looked confused. Green tried to ask him something, but he didn't understand. So he just waited. And slowly, Green took his hand. He lifted the other boy from the swing gently. He didn't want to scare the other. When Green was all the way up, Danny put his other hand on his chest and phased into him. He could feel the other's panic as Green looked at his chest and then the area around them. He could tell the other could feel him, but not understand how. Perhaps because Danny is possessing him without overshadowing? So, Danny reached out and hoped he could convey what he meant. Take that, Lancer. He could use sophisticated words. HELLO. Green jumped. He could see the other's eyes widen as Green clutched his head. IDONT KNOWIFYO using UNDES SANDME. BUTHREJUES ENODINV. MYNMEISDNNY. SOREFOR SAHING YOU. IMINSIDYOURHEDRIGHT I am able to understand why you. Green said, still as a stone with his hands still on his head. YO using UNDES SANDME. SUCKS THAT IDONT KNOWWHAT YOURESING. BUTI SING TAGING IFL. Then, Danny felt something click in the other's brain. Wait, are you speaking English? Danny was sure Green could feel how excited he was. WAIT, YOUKNOWENGLISH? IMSOSORYTHAT IDONT KNOWTHELANG. YOUWRESBKING. BUTTHISISGRET. FINLOY, HAVING. SANTOLKTOISM. RLIEVING and IDNKICOLTURSAY. Green fainted. Well, at least Danny knew they could talk later. Taking control, Danny made them invisible and flew back to Green's home. Dropping the school bag by Green's door, he took off the other's shirt and set him to bed. They would have all the time in the world to talk later. In the meantime, Danny will see if using the internet here allows for English, considering Green understood. And Dan even remembered which order Green put those characters in. Probably. Izuku woke up gently. Like lifting his head above a foggy embankment, the sleepy world dripped from his mind as he slowly shifted in bed. Dreamlessness turned to floating light consciousness as he basked in the chill in his room. The days and nights had been so hot lately that the cool was its own bliss that allowed him to snuggle under his blankets more. The sun had just started to rise. Ribbons of light stretched across his room and he lazily closed his eyes again before any brightness could, momentarily, shock his eyes. Something wasn't quite right? His mind came to a halt. Did he get here? How was he back in his room? The last thing he remembers is... Izuku shot up in bed as memories flood his mind. He quickly darted his head back and forth, looking for any sign of the person from yesterday. The coast was clear, but that still left questions. Who was that boy? Honestly, Izuku had seen quirks that mutated the body, but that person was something else. Just humanoid enough to get a point across, and he'd probably be average if not for how unsettling he was. Then, there is the matter of this person phasing into him. Is that what happened? There was talking, and, finally, Izuku went unconscious. And now was somehow in his bed. What the F dash? His mother knocked on his door a bit later to make sure he was awake. Thanking her and smiling, acting as if nothing was wrong, he did his morning rituals. Though he did change into his uniform faster than usual. It was supposed to be the rainy season, yet it was so cool he could mistake it for the beginning of a cold front. The weather app on his phone, and his own eyes looking out the window, said otherwise. Maybe he was just getting a little sick? As he got ready for school, he contemplated if yesterday even happened, or was just a fever dream. The news he pulled up confirms it did. Or at least the villain attacks. Something still feels so unnatural about the air around him. Like he isn't alone. It's making his senses go haywire. Izuku felt the hair on the back of his neck raise and his instincts rise. Irrationally, Izuku tosses his head about, looking for the predator stalking in the shadows. But, just as it had when he woke up, revealed he was alone in his room. His phone beeped, warning him he needed to leave for school. Izuku could think on this later. When he wasn't paranoid of the air. The nagging feeling didn't abate as he went to class. Izuku still couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, but he also felt the sensation of watching. Like he, himself, was looking for something. No matter where he turned, everything was the same. Everything was normal. And it didn't feel like it should. There was something lurking in his head. It prowled. It watched. It controlled. But it didn't take over, though something in Izuku knew it could. Wisps here and there, of not right. His tongue didn't sit right in his mouth. His skin felt too tight. His steps were more fluid and his body moved as if it knew too. Every noise. Every smell. Even how the air felt was wrong. Yet, everything felt as if he was moving through a fog. As if he was across the room. Or playing a video game character. His emotions just seemed to evaporate soon after he had them. It wasn't bad per se, but Izuku had never felt like this before. Izuku had a pressure building in the front of his brain, but it never became a headache. Thank whoever was looking out for him on that point. And whoever decided that Kaken wasn't going to be mean today. Kaken may have ignored him all day, but that didn't mean Izuku was out of the clear. Yet again, he was held up after class. Though, this time without the threat of explosions. Hey freak, why does a worthless piece of sheet like you keep showing your face? One of the boys sneered. His friends laughed behind him. Izuku's insides felt numb. One of them came forward, nails turning to rock-textured claws as he approached. Yeah. Why don't you just listen for once and do the right thing? I guess ending your own life would make you less of a burden on everyone else. The rock claw boy said. Something began to slither under his skin. Izuku couldn't really focus on the bullies. The pressure built and moved and pressed. Over and over. All he could do was put his notebook in his bag by this point. So much for not having a headache. Hello. Izuku stops. It's the same voice from before? That's probably what was making him feel weird all day. The boy hitched a ride in his body. Though, the other hadn't hurt him and didn't affect him much. So he's not malicious. And suddenly, everything came back into focus. His eyes flicked around the room. There was one bully who stood guard by the door. Two others stood behind the boy coming closer, still laughing and jeering. And the boy with claws looked angry. ITLOKS. LIKEDS ABOUTTOHURTYOE. IGOTAPLAN, BUTYOURE JONA HAVTOTRUST. TIVAR ISBLOCGD. SOWL HAVTOGOOUTTHEWINDOWs. You done ignoring me, you sheet stain? The other boy said. Izuku was done. He was just done. Whatever the voice in his head was doing, he was just going to follow. So he decided to put his bag on his back, keeping his eye on the approaching threat. Okay, Wida. IEDYOUTOGUMPOUT of THEWINDOW. ITST ONLYWII SIN COFYOUGTTINGOUTTA. Was the voice getting clearer? And just told him to jump from a window? Why was he following the voice again? I'm gonna use you as a FING scratching post. Then you'll be useful for once in your empty existence. Oh, that's why. HEY, IK now YOUREWOEDD. Dundida. ILCTCHYOU. He was already lifting the window. Izuku didn't know if he wanted the voice to be real or not. The bullies were confused, losing some bravado as they watched. What the F are you doing? One of the other boys asked. Hands on the sill, Izuku looked them in the eyes with a fleeting glance. Then he launches himself out the window. 3 stories up should definitely get him seriously injured, if not dead with how he went down headfirst. But the pain never came. Nor did any type of darkness other than his closed eyes. He did feel tingly, almost weightless. He opened his eyes. He was floating, not even half a meter off the ground and still being slowly lowered. Izuku was stunned still. Once he was touching the concrete, he heard the voice again. ITLDYOUIDCHYOU. WSHOULDPROBBLYLE. BFORMHTSDONHR. Still stunned, all Izuku could do was get up and run from the area. He had too many questions and getting interrogated by his bullies would hinder them. A flash of green goes down, flying past the window, leaving Katsuki in stunned silence. All day, Katsuki had felt something was different. Something changed. Predatory eyes following his every movement. He saw his peers act much the same. Like there was something in the room with them that shouldn't be there. He saw hunched shoulders. Quick look-arounds and glances at moving shadows. Flinching at sudden noises. An overall hush. Even the teacher decided to not do much under such pressure. It crept up his spine and told him not to let his guard down. There was a predator and Katsuki was going to get killed if he set 1 foot out of line. It had fangs and claws and would rend him of his flesh and bone if he got in its sights. It was something you couldn't fight against. It was something you couldn't run from. It was something you could never hope to hide from. It simply chose not to hunt right now. And that was even more terrifying. Being prey in a monster's territory and only being allowed to live because it was either uncaring or merciful. Something was wrong and even the extras could tell. But what was it? Katsuki tried to pinpoint it and finally came to the conclusion that it was coming from Deku, of all people. Deku, a quirkless weakling who couldn't hurt a fly. Who let others hit him because he couldn't fight back, but would still take a punch for a stranger because otherwise, that person would get hurt in his place. Naive, stupid, soft-hearted Deku felt like a killer on the verge of snapping. Even though he never would. But, even so, Katsuki's instincts told him not to mess with the green-haired boy today. He wasn't weak anymore. If Katsuki tried something, he had the feeling it would be met with a retaliation he couldn't take. No matter how idiotic that sounded, he wouldn't be the one to test it. Apparently the other extras didn't get the hint, so Katsuki decided to evacuate the area. Something was wrong with Deku and he was not going to be there when the meek boy snapped. He stopped on the 2nd floor, probably right under the classroom he'd just left a few minutes ago. And he remembered. He remembered a whole childhood with Deku. Meek boy with sunshine and determination in his eyes. The kind child with a soft heart and dreams too big for his body. The boy he terrorized for being different and was met with no rebellion. Something was wrong with Deku. Katsuki was afraid of him. Or at least the aura he was leaking. Deku was practically an angel with how patient, understanding, and kind he was. He would die. In a hero's work. If he had to stop the other boy from trying, he would. But now, Katsuki was almost considering not getting in the way. He saw something pass the window, only to realize too late that it was the very person he was thinking of. Katsuki rushed over to the window. He didn't want to see what happened, but he couldn't walk away either. And there he was, hands laying on either side of his head. Blood leaked weakly from Deku's nose. His body was so still. Mouth partly opened as if to let what little was left in escape. Katsuki was scared to look at the other boy's eyes. He didn't want to see them hollow of any light, going milky blind with death. But this was what he wanted, wasn't it? He told Deku himself. He told him to jump just yesterday. He'd called the boy useless. Worthless. Katsuki drove Izuku to this, didn't he? And yet Izuku still came to his rescue. He couldn't bear it anymore but forced himself to look in the other's eyes. To face the evil he committed. But their green was vibrant. Shocked from the turn of events, Katsuki watched in horror and mild fascination as Izuku got up and walked away. What the F dash? Katsuki, still stunned as he watched the other boy somehow disappear from view, pulled out his phone and dialed his mom. What do you want, brat? Ain't school over? Mitsuki gruffly asked. Mom. He'd never heard his own voice so broken. So small. He sounded like he was about to cry. What happened? Mitsuki sounded almost soft. He paused for a moment, trying to find words for this situation. Izuku jumped from the window. What? He got up. He walked away. I don't know how. Maybe he's fine, but I'll call Inko and tell her. No. You don't understand. He jumped from the 3rd floor. I'm pretty sure he landed headfirst. He shouldn't be alive, let alone able to get up and walk away. Tashinori was on a hunt. He had finally found the perfect student. The perfect successor, even if the boy hasn't accepted yet. Midoriya Izuku, Quirkless outcast with the heart of a hero. Was that how Nana saw had him? Chosen him? Is that why she gave this quirk to him? Was one for all embedded into him because of his heart? He definitely didn't have the body to handle it when he first met his teacher. Toshinori could guess, but the one who could have answered is dead. And that leads him to where he was now. In front of Aldra Junior High, waiting across the street to see if his potential pupil is here or not. It's a logical choice, the only junior high that was near the tunnel incident. Of course, he'd done his own research and knew the boy was here. But the likelihood that he would walk the abandoned path again after being attacked was low. So, here Toshinori was, waiting. The last bell had rung about 15 minutes ago. Midoriya yet to be found. It didn't really matter, Toshinori could keep coming back to wait until he found the boy. Hell, the boy could probably wait for the year after next to enter a hero course. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Midoriya doesn't need to immediately enroll. He could train the boy up, hide the power Toshinori was going to give him and keep his new student out of the spotlight. Away from any who might try to reveal him to all for one. It'd give the boy and him more time to settle into the new roles they would play. The school was mostly cleared of students now. Toshinori would only wait around a little longer before giving up for the day. He'd have to return on Monday. A window on the third floor opened, catching his attention. And there was the boy he was looking for. It looked like he would be able to get his student quicker than he thought. But his soon-to-be student looked distressed. He looked out the window and then back behind himself, as if making an important calculation, and threw himself out the window headfirst. Demon, if that was his answer, he was pretty bad at math. Toshinori couldn't see the ground from his standpoint and rushed into the area Midoriya should have landed. He'd never forgive himself for just standing there like an idiot. God, he hoped Midoriya was okay. Why would he do that? Then a chill crept up his spine. He knew DMN well why. The world was against the Quirkless. He lived that in his own youth. And Toshinori may have been the catalyst for this self-destruction. Being told by your idol that you can't achieve your dreams would be an awful feeling. How could he do something so stupid? Toshinori launched himself forward, into the courtyard, only to find it empty. Walking forward to just below the windows, he found the only thing Midoriya left behind. A small puddle of blood. It was thin and already drying, so the boy wasn't bleeding out. But Midoriya must have run off to deal with any wounds he may have gotten. That wasn't good. Moving could be even worse for his health if he broke or crushed anything. He had to search fast. But first, he made a call to his detective friend on the situation. Told him he was on the lookout for the boy and asked for the police to be on alert as well, without telling anyone of what's happening. He needed to find the boy and get him medical aid. And try to apologize for his stupid words. What the F dash? What the F dash? What in the actual F is going on? Izuku doesn't even really know if he wants an answer, but he thinks he needs one. Because what the F is going on? Okay, why, stop. Youedto some down dot. HOWABOUTWEGOTOTHATPRK or WH8E via. Tegan WECNTLK. ILEXPLAI and WHATSGNGON. Is this his life now? Listening to voices in his head? People already call him creepy with his mumbling. Now this? What is his life? What has it come to in only a few days? No, in not even 2 days? DUD, ITSALRIGHT. ATSDSITONTFNG so YOURENOT. AWKWARDLYSTNDINGAROUND dots. Oh, he's already at the park? Huh, guess he got lost in thought again. YH, IHD to estar YOU dots. Okay? So, I just have to ask you, what the F dash? IDONTKNO W Japanese E, IM SOI. THOUGH, IDIDGT TGISTOFWHATYOUWRESYNG. ISPKENGLISHIFTHDCHLPS. OH, ANDYOUDNT to SPEAK OUTLA. DONTWNTTOLOOKTOOCR Israelites. Izuku was not amused. He was, in a mildly horrified way. He also knew that his irritation could be felt when the person taking room inside his skull essentially sighed without air. The explanation he was about to get better be good. Don't get him wrong, Izuku is grateful that his body wasn't really being possessed, or at least mind-controlled, without his consent. But having someone hitch a ride in your body is just strange. Okay, why? ILGUSTCUTTO THE CHOSI. ABOUDWKAGOICMTHRUJ. PORTL to YOURWRLD dots. Dots. What the F dash? THATWASNOTMYSHNNGMONT dot? IYSTRYNGTOSAYTJTINALESSSTUPIDWAY dash. Holy sheet, I'm meeting someone from another world? What are the logistics that make this possible? How did you travel here? Is technology so advanced that such travel is easy in your world? WLL, Tiknisiloida. My parientes mata a PORL to a PLACYWORLD CLS. The ghost BUTFRYOU, it will be BST to JUST CALIT. The AFTR Life of OUR multivari. ANDI Jesus IM NOT JUST FRM a different worldy? I am from a different university. ONET HATI docent RUN parallel to YOURist. ITS very hard TO XPLAN in AYYA regular person. Sin UNDRS tan dots. Dude. Wait, how though? If there's only one afterlife, how does everyone fit there? The technology is something I'd die to see, pun mostly intended. Oh shit. My nose is bleeding. Hwe. Sorwayabutitich. IKNDMADE YOUR SIN uses REYDYWHLO. TT POW RIWAS HO LDING back dot. But it adds TOYOUR NU origin STORE. T hats GONNAB PRET TI NET. It'll go YDH the T himi I havi. SO while T dark Joku S. Wait, what? SPVHLESS? WL, let MEXPLAIN a bit MRE. Izuku felt a tugging sensation at the base of his skull. Gentile tugging until something unknotted itself and released. It felt like cold water when you drain your ears from the pool. Except it was coming from his brain? Spine? Something it shouldn't come out of but wasn't unpleasant. And there was a bright light and some violent crackling. And it took a curling form around Izuku. Black, white, and green. He appeared as he did before, a wisp made of electricity, body twisted like a coiling snake around him. Izuku still felt the other connected to him, at the base of his skull. SOI sin uenda are stand YOU. Oh, wait, you know how to transverse to other universes, but you can't understand Japanese. That's kinda ridiculous. IKNOWENGLISH, ESPNTO, AND JICHO STSBK. IALSO K now a lot of LN. The dead have their own language? HOWUSE WALD differenti SBCs from. MULTIPLUNIVCS COMMUNICate? Can you teach go speak? I'll teach you Japanese. When you die, do you instantly learn it? Does it have its own numbering system? Does it require something to use? The dot ghost? Chuckled at the questions, but not cruelly. Yes, USULYK now at WHNYOUT. YS, YOUREQI are being dead. Or having G a large amount of EC to PLASM. INYOURSYSTM TOSPKIT. I suppose EIT does have a TRS on FOR numbers. Though THATS most LYUSLSS. He has to have large amounts of ectoplasm in his system? So he can't dash? And YES, IWILLTHYOU dots. But? LTMGTBCK to MYEXPLNATI on fro liar dots. Suddenly, Izuku felt a push on his back and the swing started to sway. CI. AWRLD. Where EGTHADS OFTDDAD. While K AMONGDE leaving G dots. Another push. My PRNTS A region SES. TQI Belai EVED in THEG host zone S in C. BF or IWAS born A and CRCHET F or WI's TOFINDIT. They cami TOTE conclasai on that science. Ever Y Thing eventually DIs, NAL F format. Part LSWADIMA do ZN. But IMPOS Sibli to Fuen CTI onalel YUSE. Another push, But Izuku was more focused on the ghost. The Y Mata W Penes. CTC Hing D6ES. ANDS High ELDS. FROM ectoplsm to Phi HT goes TS. They want TD to DISSECT OA. Pravi YW IRNT CRAZ FORBL Evangida. Event high our children didn't be live in the IRRSA arch. LOTOFTE war KWS HYPOD Hediso. TYSPNTTWN TI YRS MAKNG A PORDL. AFTR their F first PRO type FL dots. Another push. AND to Y Amadiata. TYWRE so EZIT DTO final YSE. T fruitus OF their lowing laboar. EXCE point. It didn't TWRKWH into Y Pila GDITI dots. Trepidation reared its head and Izuku could tell something was going to happen. Something bad. TYWRE so sad. IDIDNT believe but it still brok my HA. TOC them leakage. MYFR Jens convinc edemi TO go. INTO inactive portal TO luke around. MAB make my pirients hap y. TTI invested TIM into tearing to HLP dots. Push. Oh no. The ghost laugh. Why T on Budoen was inside ANDTYF or go T. Oh god. I try PPD over A Siabindi high T the buttons. Oh god. Tiri is enoth ing that is as painful as halef ing dots. What? Halef doing dot? Tihali CTRI city kili d me and revivied emi. BUTIYS HLFWIIN MYW old. And HLFYIN to THWORLD of the dad. Ding A among THD USUY mayones to be irazed. ORRE born. ID and D semibicicada. Halef OFBO. Halef LI. Halef de adots. How did it somehow get worse? Izuku couldn't stand it anymore. The ghost, half-ghost, was speaking like it's a funny story of something stupid you did when you were younger. The feelings through the connection, however, felt self-deprecating. It broke his heart. He couldn't stop himself from pulling the other into a hug, though the other stiffened under his arms. Izuku also couldn't stop the tears. The ghost detached the arms softly and looked at him sadly. Now, IV go to estor y to finish dot. And yo you ed to HRT he nd. Push. In MYWLD PWRS doin TXIST. SUPROES and Villians WE only in comic bookcased. But, I sudi do I had LL these NU puribus. THD ICLDNT Siontal AND a Beyonsage OFG hosts. Tori Zing the L4ing. IST ped up TOT he plate. BUT, TGCI6LANSDIDNT surit. I was JUST and O teacher dots. NO matter WH at good IDD. SANE YS LYS AGSTM. I high DMY powers F from my parents. After ID IDB ONTR DISSE tine TABLE. They treaty so many TIMES, it YS almost T a G. BUTI and ever wanted TOS Wati while D itchitin. If I low ST. Push. And D the N, I was entiloan. I foen denote the OFMYKIND. HLFA, HE caludus. BUT, HEWS NOTGOODAT artic. HEYS SLFSH, CRUL, assigning his POW. TO huart ogus to GKN LIFE. ICULD and STAND BSIDA HIM. And that MAD ME high S in ME dots. Push. He tiern D ever yon aga in STM. Evian my FR indest. And D ICOLD and Esta ANYMORE. I tich OUGHT. Peer HAPS if I NO Elong 11 STD. He will DL Eve THM Eloan. HEDB board EAG nuts. Push. Beautifaz Dion T die. TY sin T dot. Evian TOY. IL even stop aging dot. Just T leak HM. I MEGHTGO mod E as HEDID dots. Push. BUTDCHIP mean TIJUS dijat to dis AGR, right? D festies on IS FUL OF lost than GST. And if you TIRAVL deepen UGH? Why you'll find it on? These doors send tacky you anywhere. Buti yoyolel never now where you are going G. Not RLOY. THT is ho WICME to be hiri. Fish. IDD and KNOWWHT IWS goin GTO dude. I was los T dot. And a fuse dot. But T and I SAW yo u dot. YOUWRE my equile and oppo SIT in EVRE WY. UNTD to help people eat. BUT, you and Eliki Everini Arundi yo u? YOU didn't T have AP. T didn't T S top YOU, THH. Halt. YOU Evan step pied in TO safe. The person who HERT YOUSOMA New York Times. A hand was placed on his shoulder as pools of green stared into his soul, ready to cast judgment. I decided WHT I WLD dude. I WLD give YOUMY powers dot. I WLD help you become a hero dot. A tiru hero. Izuku's heart felt like it stopped. WH at DO YOUSY. I'll have to TC nisil Y posse SSU. BUTU alriaduy akiptd twice dot. WHI sich was WHIIW ABLE to USE. My POWS WHLE in your SKN dot. Yoyul HAV fuel siuntaro. Buti YOUL and Evivanivana. Do ESTDSM like a Judy Tiarada. You'll pretend to be a quirk? You'll help me be a hero? I'll never be. Alone? Was? Yes. The answer was absolute. Power leaked into his veins. And Izuku felt as if his mind was bared for the other to see. My name is Midoriya Izuku. And mine WS de New York Fenton. BUT Yousen Kalel MEPH into M. It can also be YOUR Hero Nami as well. ID on TMND SNGDuts. Okay, then. I'll call you Phantom when others are around. But I want to use your real name otherwise. If that's alright. TETS Siampleteli Fine, Izuku. Oh my god, it's getting dark, mom's gonna kill me. Laughter escaped Danny and phased back into Izuku. Green glowed faintly on his skin and he started floating. Well, this is one way to get home. The next half an hour was spent trying to balance in midair and then float home, pushing off of the roofs and sides of sleeping buildings like an astronaut on the moon. Danny was happy with that comparison and said how that was what he thought the first time too. He also told Izuku about the childhood dreams of being an astronaut and how sad he was when he realized he could never achieve his dreams. Izuku promised him he'd find a way and he'd make DMN sure of it. Affection bloomed through the bond and they laughed like children in the waning light of sunset. It was the first time he'd felt weightless both literally and figuratively. The world was off both their shoulders, if only for a few minutes. But it meant the world to two lost souls. Izuku's joy was infectious and Danny felt wonder for his powers all over again. Izuku opened the door to his apartment home, still smiling. A bit of blood was still on his face since it had dried before he had noticed. His hair was more windblown, but it was hard to tell from the regular mess on his head. Hey Mom, I'm home. He took off his shoes at the front. I have some great news to tell you. You'll never believe, oof. Izuku was in a tight hug, his mother's sobs racking both their bodies. Izuku! My baby! Are you hurt? Oh my god, why would you jump from the third-floor window? Oh, well, I have a quirk now? I kinda jumped because a bunch of bullies were cornering me. What? HOYFUCK, do you did it? YOURMOMS dot. No sheet, Sherlock? There was a tugging at the base of his skull and it felt like he was leaking cold water, ice cubes, and menthol. KNOWWHAT? Nope. I am ENDINGTHIS RIGHT. INTRDHMETOYOURMMD. ASYOURQRK.IGUSS. Do you want to meet my quirk? He's a sentient one. The outright horror on his mom's face was mildly disheartening. SALVE. This was not going to go well. Translations. Okay, stop. You need to calm down. How about we go to that park or whatever? Then we can talk. I'll explain what's going on. Dude, it's alright. At least sit on the swing so you're not awkwardly standing around. Yeah, I had to steer you here. I don't know Japanese, I'm sorry. Though, I did get the gist of what we're saying. I speak English if that helps. Oh, And you don't have to speak out loud. Don't want to look too crazy. Okay, I'll just cut to the chase. About a week ago I came through a portal to your world. That was not my shining moment. I was trying to say that in a less stupid way. Well, technically, my parents made a portal to a place my world calls the Ghost Zone. But for you, it would be best just to call it the afterlife of our multiverse. And I guess I'm not just from a different world? I'm from a different universe. One that doesn't run parallel to yours. It's very hard to explain in a way a regular person can understand. Hey, sorry about that. I kinda made your sinuses really dry with all that power I was holding back. But hey, it adds to your new origin story. That's gonna be pretty neat. It'll go with the theme I have. So will the dark jokes. Speechless? Well, let me explain a bit more. So I can understand you. Hey, I know English, Esperanto, and ghost speak. I also know a lot of Latin. How else would different species from multiple universes communicate? Yes, you usually know it when you die. Yes, you require being dead, or having a large amount of ectoplasm in your system to speak it. I suppose it does have a translation for numbers, though that's mostly useless. And yes, I will teach you. Let me get back to my explanation from earlier. See, I'm from a world where the shades of the dead walk among the living. My parents are geniuses. They believed in the ghost zone since before I was born and had searched for ways to find it. They came to the conclusion that since everything eventually dies, natural formed portals were a dime a dozen, but impossible to functionally use. They made weapons, catching devices, and shields from ectoplasm to fight ghosts. They wanted to dissect one. Prove they weren't crazy for believing. Even their children didn't believe in their research. A lot of the work was hypothetical. They spent 20 years making a portal after their first prototype failed. And they made it. They were so excited to finally see the fruits of their long labor. Except, it didn't work when they plugged it in. They were so sad. I didn't believe, but it still broke my heart to see them like that. My friends convinced me to go into the inactive portal to look around. Maybe make my parents happy that I invested time into trying to help. Yeah. The on button was inside and they forgot. I tripped over a cable and hit the button. There's nothing that is as painful as half dying. Half dying. The electricity killed me and revived me. But I was halfway in my world and halfway into the world of the dead. Dying among the dead usually means to be erased or reborn. I died and came back. Half of both. Half alive, half dead. Hey now, I've got a story to finish. And you need to hear the end. In my world, powers don't exist. Superheroes and villains were only in comic books. But I suddenly had all these new powers that I couldn't control and a bunch of ghosts terrorizing the living. I stepped up to the plate. But the civilians didn't care. I was just another ghost. No matter what good I did, someone was always against me. I hid my powers from my parents, afraid I'd be on their dissection table. They tried so many times, it was almost a game. But I never wanted to see what would happen if I lost. And then I wasn't alone. I found another of my kind. The Alpha, he called us. But he was not good at heart. He was selfish, cruel, using his power to hurt others to get ahead in life. I couldn't stand beside him. And that made me his enemy. He turned everyone against me. Even my friends. And I couldn't stay anymore. I thought, perhaps if I no longer existed he would leave them alone. He'd be bored again. But Halfas don't die. They can't. Eventually I'll even stop aging. Just like him. I might go mad as he did. But that meant I just had to disappear, right? The ghost zone is full of lost things. And if you travel deep enough, you'll find doors. These doors can take you anywhere. But you'll never know where you're going, not really. That is how I came to be here. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was lost. Confused. But then I saw you. You were my equal and opposite in every way. You wanted to help people. But, unlike everyone around you, you didn't have a power. That didn't stop you though. You even stepped in to save the person who hurt you so many times. So, I decided what I would do. I would give you my powers. I would help you become a hero. A true hero. What do you say? I'll have to technically possess you, but you already accepted twice. Which was why I was able to use my powers while in your skin. You'll have full control. But you'll never be alone again. Does that seem like a good trade? And mine was Danny Fenton. But you can call me Phantom. It can also be your hero name as well. I don't mind sharing. That's completely fine, Izuku. Holy F-dude. Your mom's terrifying. Know what? Nope, I'm ending this right here. Introduce me to your mom. As your quirk, I guess? Salve. Salve means hello. Poor baby just wanted to say hi. Inko reheats the katsudon she had made earlier. She had called off the search before any heroes could get involved, thank goodness, and had told the authorities searching that her son activated his quirk and that everything was taken care of. She'd take him to the doctor's tomorrow. She could still see her son in the living room. She couldn't remember the last time she'd seen him so happy. And didn't that hurt? To look at her son's beaming face as he chatted with his quirk and realize that she couldn't do that herself. Inko watched the eyes of the phantom-like figure that Izuku called his quirk as it followed where the boy pointed. Attentive and occasionally humming, the quirk pointed or gestured. It was talking to him. Kept the conversation going. Its massive body curled around her son. A twisted mix between a wispy apparition and softly buzzing electricity. Glitched, only to then fade in and out of existence. It did so rhythmically in its own pattern. Like a heartbeat. The timer Inko had set went off and the quirk immediately reacted. Its neck turned so suddenly Inko half thought it twisted, its head perked and alert. It had curled even tighter around Izuku and its electricity was volatile. The face seemed elongated, green light becoming the only way to define the terrifying features it gained. Bared teeth, sharper than razors. Its hair whipped about in its own turbulent wind. Inko froze. Izuku grabbed a now clawed hand. Hey, it's all right. It was just the timer. Nothing's going to hurt us. Her boy gently cooed to his quirk. It calmed down and went back to its previous state. It was still acting protective. She retracted her statement on the quirk being like a ghost. It was more of an eldritch abomination. A face like that doesn't come from anywhere other than the realms of hell itself. She remembered those Oni and Kabuki masks that always scared her as a child. The over-exaggerated features painted in only white and green light. Come sit at the table, Izuku, she said as she set the bowl down on the table. This was all so much, and she didn't know what she was feeling. Izuku thanked her and took a bite, only to freeze after a few seconds. He tilted his head to the side, as if thinking hard about something, and lifted another bite of the fried pork to his quirk. It paused for a moment. Then it took the bite in its green mouth. And so, dinner continued as such, Izuku eating 2 bites, then giving one to his quirk. His quirk actually seemed to enjoy the food, eyes upturned like it was smiling. Oh, does your quirk need to eat? Inko tried to start a conversation. She knew how much Izuku loved analyzing quirks, and now that he had one for himself, he'd probably be more open to discussing it than what happened earlier today. She also didn't want to touch that subject for now, either. Izuku hummed in thought. I don't really know if he needs to eat. But it feels wrong to not at least give him some, knowing that he's sentient and with his own thoughts and feelings. And since I can feel what he's feeling, just as he can feel what I feel, I can tell that he feels the same way I do after I eat. He's full. This might imply that while he doesn't need to eat as much as me, he may need his own type of fuel? Maybe my own diet might change to be similar and I won't need to eat as much, so long as he eats too? Or maybe I'll still need to eat the same amount, but he can eat too so that he can function on his own? I know he can detach from me and then I can't hear his thoughts or understand him when he speaks. I can still feel him when he detaches, but I can't really tell what he feels. More so just his presence. I think I was feeling his presence all this week. Though I first saw him after the slime villain incident. I had gone to the park to calm down and he appeared in front of me. I guess I knocked out after fully activating him and he had carried me home. Izuku became flustered and sheepishly bowed his head and rubbed the back of his neck. I'm so sorry, I thought I had dreamed that. And, today, Izuku bowed his head more and proceeded to continue at a whisper. He caught me before I could hit the ground. He told me to go to the park to calm down and we talked for a bit. Her boy lifted his head, tears welled in his eyes. His voice was wet with emotion. I'm sorry, Mom. I shouldn't have done some hick things so stupid. I was just so tired of being and bullied. An inch they were gonna going to her hick teen. Izuku was barely able to breathe as he went into a panic attack. Faster than she could react, Izuku was plucked out of his chair. The quirk was currently cradling him, Izuku's head tucked under its chin, and was making a noise between the echo of a bell and groaning wind. Occasional static and glitching interwove with the noise. Inko didn't realize that she had gotten up, but she used that time to fetch a soft blanket from the couch and then waited. She didn't know how long she was standing there, watching her son's quirk as it held him and rumbled out that strange song. But, eventually, it faded out and she was right there to take her now sleeping child from its arms. It followed her as she took Izuku into his room and laid him in bed. When she turned around, she realized it wasn't connected to Izuku right now. She exhaled a deep, sad sigh and tried a small smile. Let's go to the kitchen, okay? Would you like some hot chocolate? He tilted his head. Oh, you probably don't understand what I'm saying. She gestured her head towards the kitchen, hoping he might understand. Thank goodness he did. 10 minutes later and she handed him a warm cup. He looked at it confused for a moment before his eyes widened. He took a sip and his eyes upturned again. Inko could guess that was how he smiled when he didn't have a mouth. Soft chiming could be heard from his form. She had just realized that his tail had split into 2 legs. Like this, he wasn't as big as before. He looked just a bit taller than Izuku. He kinda even acted like him, just more subdued. She gave him a hug and he tensed up. Even if he couldn't understand her, she wanted to show her thanks in any way she could. Sunday morning began with Danny waking him up at 5. It was 30 minutes before Izuku would get up if it was a school day, hours difference for a weekend, but it couldn't be helped. Training was needed. That's just it. Izuku tried to make breakfast and Danny decided to teach him how to make a quick protein scramble. It was a little burnt, but Danny told him that even trying is better than nothing. And at least it was still edible and wasn't trying to eat them. Izuku didn't want to open whatever can of worms that was going to be. Are you good at cooking? Izuku teased. When Danny shrugged, Izuku felt confused. He also felt, through the connection on his neck, Danny suddenly felt hollow. Like his emotions were scooped out and he was an outside observer in his own body. The DNEVRCOKED. MMDIDNTRELYSRETOCOK. UNLESSSHEJOTTOADD of HREXPNTSTOIT dots. So, who cooked in your house? I mean, you couldn't have just eaten takeout and microwave meals. MYOLDRSTR, JAZZ, LURNITSOK. ATAYOUNGHSOWECOULDFREQ. A deep sigh left the teen. ILNUOY. TO. SOSHEDDNTLWYSHAVTOCOKFON. AND so ICOLDDO SUMITI HING to HLPOND. TITOYISID. IANDMYSISTRWRE ONSDONGDHISTS. As the two walked, they didn't notice the stares they were given. Not every day one saw a sentient quirk, or a person who talks to it without getting any response back. And while some quirks look like they came straight out of hell, the figure barely flickering in and out of existence was more disturbing than the few witnesses could ever describe. Most just stayed out of the kid's way. What? PARENTSWRETOBUSYWITHTIRLAB. ANDTGDSYOGISTOYMADTOTKISREOFSTA. DONTGTMEWRONG, ILOVTTIM. Buti, IWSHICOLDHAVAC. I'm sorry. And Izuku meant it. More than he probably should, but the connection between them allowed Izuku to feel how empty yet firm Danny felt on the subject. No one should have to feel like a burden to be loved or taken care of, especially by a parent. And Danny could hear Izuku's thoughts and feel his emotions. He guessed whatever bond between them was, it was getting stronger. It was developing quickly, allowing for the two to blur their outer edges into one another. It also showed that what Izuku was feeling wasn't empathy. It was sympathy. Danny could probably see where it came from. Izuku's father not being around, most likely not having any communication either, and a lack of pictures around the house made it seem like the man doesn't even exist. Absentee father aside, the pictures that are around the house tell their own story. The family photos stopped around the time Izuku was 4 to sure. There were school pictures Danny could find, but that was it. Inko didn't take pictures with her son. And the extreme change in weight between the last photo of her versus how she is now indicates a fundamental change in how she is coping, either with no support in raising a child or raising the child in of itself. He remembers Jazz saying how stress and depression can cause weight gain. He has more chances to observe this dynamic in the future. The topic needed to change, so Danny asked about the notebook he saw before. This led to Izuku explaining he kept notebooks on quirks. And that's how the rest of their walk went, Izuku mumbling and rambling about different quirks until they stopped on a beach full of trash, which left Danny a little confused. Thank goodness Danny's feeling of confusion led Izuku to explain. There are laws about using quirks in public. It's illegal unless you have a hero license. It was a law made before the governments made the title hero a job. When quirks first popped up, supposedly in 2050, people without these new powers panicked. Hate stems from fear. And they hated the power difference that was made. Governments around the world made special prisons for these new people. To study, to experiment on, and to kill all those that entered. They kidnapped, abused, and slaughtered people for something they were born with. They made it illegal to exist as anything other than normal. Yes. Izuku started picking up trash. Just small stuff, cans and bottles. Even when it was deemed evil and was likened to the Holocaust, even when people were freed, there was still prejudice. There was a rise in crime, committed by quirked people, due to their need to survive. Izuku went over to some trash cans that were left unused. As much as possible went into the recycle. History books won't explicitly tell you this, but those who had been found to have quirks had to be registered as such. Normal people refused to hire them, or made it difficult for them to keep said jobs. Or even just made the jobs that quirked people did have as horrible as possible. The only jobs that didn't care? Yakuza, mob, gangs, mafia, black markets. This also gave rise to the first vigilantes. Then came the rule that you can't use your quirk to save others. It became illegal to be a vigilante, as governments wanted to show that they would take control. The heroes. Generally made from military or police. Danny listened in horror and fascination. He also started helping with the trash. Even now, in 2304, these rules haven't changed. But it's now more so that you can't practice in public. And that's why we're at this beach. It's far enough away from other people that it technically isn't public. You can be out and use any power you have. W8. ITS 2304. ICMEFROM 2004. What? H-dots. Danny pondered for a moment, ignoring Izuku's freak out. TREISALWYS TCHEPOSSI by LITY teacher. ICMETOTGFUTURE. IVNE BIFORTS. Are you saying you could have been one of the first to have a quirk? And probably the only one of your time? Izuku seemed to pale. Fear vibrated through the bond. Does that mean our timeline won't exist? That quirks will be erased before they even began? Oh no. DUDE, IWASNTDFIRST. HECK, IDONTTNKW had IHAVIS comparable. TOAQRK. Danny exclaimed, trying to help the other boy not panic. He'd probably be freaking out too if in the same position, especially since he had more understanding of what time travel can do. Izuku thought on that. Danny explained being able to transverse universes, dimensions, and time? Probably multiple layers of reality due to the time travel? MYPOWRS RNTOFTHIS WRLD, QIRKS ARE. IALSOWASNTBORNYTHISTUTS. That explains everything and nothing. Izuku didn't know if he should ask for more details, but curiosity killed the cat. How do you have these powers, then? ITWAS a RCTIONTO CMSLS and ELICITRICITI. FROMADIFFRNTPLNEOFEXISTING. ENTERING as IWASKILLED in ELIFE. ANDREVIVIDIND. I am a halfa, as already explained. Okay? I guess. Danny had explained it before. Izuku just couldn't get his head around it completely. IWASTCUNDOFMYKIND to MYKNLEDG, ANDTHTRDWAS on LYJUSTCRED. AFEW mentichs before ILUFTD. ANDTHYRENTTYSUPPOSEDTOEXIST. What does that mean? THYWRA me? CREDBY TGFIRST of my KIND. SINCDG FRAT LOPW UT2YINSA. He wanted me as his son, but I refused. Danny sighed and tried to change the subject. He why? HOW ABOUT YOU ANOYZ MYPOWR? YOUL NED TO KNOWRE ABOUWHAT ICNDO BFOR YOUC and USC them YOURSLF. Yeah? Alright. Izuku pulled out of the dread he had felt for a moment, excited to study these new powers. Especially since they were from an alternate dimension. I know you have flight as well as basic levitation of yourself and those you inhabit. I see an LSOLIFTWHATS ARUNDM. Digisarinvar MYEMOTION Sigisarinvar MYPOWS. General telekinesis? Mom has a minor form of it that allows her to lift and drag small objects towards her. You do need to eat, drink, and probably do everything a normal human does. Albeit, at significantly less of the amount. IMHLFHUMAN. ISTILLHAVHUMAN NEDS. To what extent? What makes you the most different? Discomfort pinged through the bond, but before Izuku could tell him it was fine, Danny charged forward. I have overall supiarhuman sindidoan. Arhumoan THS FSR in my jicho FORM. I see an HAV being spiarocan and YT AN HUR. I see an LSE MAJOR ordis ANDQI FLOYHL. INAFEW doesn't MI nudis. Danny seems unsure of everything, but a desperate one is peeking out from under the fear in the bond. All Izuku can do is listen and maybe help. I don't know IFIC and DIE. PRDDY SURE IMIMLDO. Or SOMETHAN G silosi. I know ILL STOP AGNGD. I KNOW I CN DIE the N or MALWI. Beauty chal far DSITXDND? Will I still be HRE? When every star DS in every unverse. Will I exist when nothing else does? Other ghosts can pass on to the after. But, will I? How sad can someone get? Izuku feels nothing but a deep well of it in the other boy. Like this was the worst outcome. I am FASTIR. Asteringer. Mori AGIL AND FLX IB Lutihan Tite Virage Huemen Bang. Izuku has questions, but it's not his turn to talk. Not when he asked for this information. I do NTGT as SICK, or SICK all. I do NTGT INFEC tense. MYBRUSEs. DISAP power FAS star AND FAS star. IDONTGS MNYSRS. Even FROM FALBLOWS ORCs. The fact he's had fatal blows or cuts is horrific. Danny's just a kid, like him. MY balancy is near I'm possibly FOR and AV rage per SON. To compy YTH, AS is MYACC URCY. MY and URNC, DUR ABILITY, de XTRETY. Refluxes PRIS ion, NRDY, STMNA. And DSNZS a re albeit for AS well. That's actually terrifying to think of. If someone that wasn't Danny had this power, they could become the worst villain ever. Thank whatever deity gave it to Danny, since the boy was so kind. That thought seemed to calm Danny more. There was less fear and sadness in the bond. Maybe an addition of pride and fondness. Someone smiles at the thought. ALLOFTEIS before I even tell K abuti PSI. Sion trol r8 vertiden pssyvylhyhv. The telekinesis. And flying. IHAV the ability to chuically evolv. Past my previous condition, alwys get ting car. ALWYS ablito ada point to ASITION. After findi ing ICNTWIN ATFIRST. IHAVET to find LMITSTOMYP hours. That I didn't even tool y overcoem. Unki I recognize I have edichim. That sounds overpowered. By a lot. IT is for humans. And you're giving me access to this? How? Like this. Danny sinks back into Izuku. Go pick up to G car. Utterly confused, Izuku goes over to the heap of scrape that was once a car. He's more confused when he picks it up like it's nothing. Well shit. Izuku is harboring an overpowered, eldritch, half-human from a different world and time. He just hopes he can explain to Dr. Tsubasa that he just is a little strong. He remembers very well that the doctor was critical and harsh, uncaring even, in his original diagnosis. He doesn't want this man to know too much. Especially since he technically was doing this as a family favor and hasn't worked a clinic in 3-ish years. Apparently, even though he doesn't personally work a clinic anymore, he somehow was able to, quite quickly, gain access to one that he'd had ties into that would let him work. Perhaps he was a better doctor than Izuku gave credit, but he had a sinking feeling. So, you got a quirk? I have to admit that I didn't expect that. He said while looking through old medical records he had on Izuku. Wait, isn't that illegal? You know, it's one thing to have the extra toe joint. I'll run some blood tests if that's all right. Sure, sir. Good. The needle was quick, nearly painless, but it seemed like Dr. Tsubasa was perplexed by something. The doctor flitted about the small office, getting the tests started and pulling up scanners, while occasionally looking back at his notes. Well, Midoriya, I'll need you to stand up. Hold your arms up. Yes, just like that. He started the scanner, moving it against his diaphragm slow and steady. From his clavicle to the point under his sternum. All right, you can put your right arm down and turn to the right a little. The doctor went from his left armpit to the bottom of his ribcage. All right, now the other way. And again the man scanned. When he was finished, he stepped back to see if the scans were fed to the computer. Wow, that's some fancy butt tech. I mean, my parents had similar things, but they were way ahead of their time. Izuku took this as his chance to sit back down. His mom was out doing grocery shopping. As he let slip, he felt uncomfortable with so many in the room at once. Though, he had his suspicions she was probably a nervous wreck, waiting for a phone call. Everything looks good so far. Nothing too abnormal. Lowered body temperature. Slower pulse. Lower all-over activity from your body. But with no real change. If I was anyone else, I'd say you're very calm. However, the doctor turned to Izuku's profile. It says you suffer anxiety and, based on recent events, depression. Your body is unnaturally calm for someone with those conditions. Like a person in deep meditations. That was something interesting to Izuku. And definitely something he'd have to look more at. He could feel Danny roll his eyes at the mental notes. Then came the feeling of papers being flipped through, except his brain was the paper. It was weird, but he got the joke. It seemed to relieve some of the stress in him at the other's antics. That sounds really interesting. Could it be possible that it means my quirk is mind-based? I've had to usually connect with something in my head to get him to work. Him. He's a sentient quirk. He has thoughts and feelings all his own. I can hear them and feel them when I connect. Izuku decided to use air quotes to try to deter any suspicion. He's wispy but, nah? His body looks like it's composed of fog and electricity. Maybe fire? Or plasm? Partly transparent. Izuku realizes he's been looking at the floor in contemplation, hand pinching his chin, and quickly looks back up. And what does your quirk do? The doctor now has a clipboard and a pencil. Sheet. Izuku would have to tell some things and try to leave out every minor detail. Well, he can connect and disconnect with me. He's able to act on his own even when disconnected. If he disconnects, I don't have access to the rest of the quirk's abilities. Any power he has I can use. He mentally nudges Danny to get his butt out of his head. Is it not usually the other way around? Izuku's body relaxed at the feeling of cold leaking from his body. Izuku continued to speak as the doctor sat still and bug-eyed. Danny was having a bit of fun. The lights flickered, machines whirled. Better to get rid of evidence of my existence, and a general fear-inducing aura leaked from the other system. Izuku continues. His body temperature is low. He's able to lift heavy items such as a car. He can lift objects without touching them and float around, practically able to fly, which I think is a part of my mom's telekinesis. It's just stronger. His body structure seems to be plasma-based, which is probably a mutation of my dad's fire quirk. Have you tried to use plasma to any extent? Fire, electricity. Actual plasma? I haven't really been testing my quirk too much. I've only had access to it for a few days. Maybe a few weeks. So far, I've only accessed the ability to levitate and lift objects I wouldn't usually be able to. Maybe if dash. A shield of clear green energy came up in between Izuku and Dr. Tsubasa. Izuku puffed out a laugh and turned a less than serious glare towards Danny. So much for a cover, but at least it was in line with what they were going to stick with originally. Really? Show off. Of course. Gotta make sure I'm a good quirk, right? Izuku turned a large smile to the doctor. Well, I guess that answers our questions, huh? The doctor seemed to have filled a page or so on Izuku's quirk. The poor man went to look at his machines, only to appear more stumped. It seems I'll have to take more blood. Either your quirk shorted them out, or they need to be replaced. Either way, afterward I'll have you go home. I'll be using better machines, but they'll take longer. I should have everything done by tomorrow if there are no complications. I'll update your files by the end of the week. Otherwise, gotta say I'm happy you seem to have gained a quirk. You'll be able to follow that childish dream of becoming a hero if you really want. No one will stop you from entering an entrance exam now. Honestly, I think you'd do better in quirk analytics, like I told your mother when you were younger. Izuku really wished he could have taken the whole day off, but schoolwork was easy to get behind on. Especially since the teachers never gave him the assignments that were missed or would accept late work. It wasn't even 4th PRD yet, so he didn't miss too much. The desk lady looked up after Izuku was done filling out the late form sign and handing his doctor's note to her with an, "Excuse me, Miss Dash," before she looked like she saw a ghost and promptly fainted. He decided to leave the note there since he had a copy, and he took a picture of the sign-in on his phone. Just to make sure they don't try to say he never showed up. The halls were empty. Izuku would make it just in time to be there as the 3rd PRD ended and could sneak in during the break. He could just chill in the bathrooms for a moment, which he did, only to notice he had a bloody nose again. Well, at least none of the teachers could say something about him going to the bathroom. Danny was asleep. Kinda? Oh well, the bloody nose is probably an excess of power not being used. Which meant Izuku would have to find a way to use some of Danny's powers at all times to stop the bleeding. Oh, maybe he could generate energy around his body? But Izuku couldn't have anyone get hurt from that. So, he should generate it somewhere most wouldn't touch. His hair? Drawing on the latent power Danny lets him use, it was a little difficult to get a grasp. It evaded him every time he reached, slipping through his metaphorical fingers. Don't chase it. Danny woke up, temporarily. Let it come over you. Draw you in and flood your system. It might feel terrifying, but don't worry. And then Danny went back to sleep. So, Izuku let go. He imagined the feeling of Danny's leaking cold, until it was just there, at the base of his neck. Instead of trying to grasp it again, Izuku relaxed. It took a few more tries to get it to start flowing out more. Hey, he looked kinda like Erasure. So cool. Little did Izuku know, the bell just rang. Everyone was getting up for the break, 'cause no one wanted to stay sitting after almost an hour. It was just a bout of misfortune when the kid with nails that could turn into rock-like claws walked into the bathroom to see the ghost of the quirkless boy he'd driven to jump out a window. Lights flickered, energy buzzed, stall doors swung lightly, and all that was Eddie freaking without the horror standing in front of the mirrors. Midoriya's skin was pale and grayish. Blood, a vibrant red contrast, leaked from his nose and mouth. Though, it had been from the bloody nose dripping into his mouth. Green hair floated and played with an invisible breeze. Midoriya's eyes were closed. What the F dash? The kid could barely whisper. It felt as if something hungry was in the room. Something that would stop until it got to his marrow. It crushed the air out of his lungs with joy. There was going to be a wet spot on the ground if he didn't leave soon. The noise itself seemed to alert Midoriya that someone else was in. His head snapped up, eyes wide and staring at his own reflection. Pools of glowing blue illuminated what the increasing flickering lights could not. It was all he could do not to scream when Midoriya's head slowly turned to him. Izuku heard a noise or realized he'd been out of it probably too long. The energy that was vibrating gently through his veins sang in soft attention. It felt like something was slowly enveloping him in care and protection. He felt invincible. He also felt extremely sick. His organs were revolting this foreign thing. That's pretty cool. His eyes are glowing. Does he have night vision? Maybe a type of it? More to study later. For now, he should probably acknowledge the other boy in the room. Utter terror was not what he was expecting. Nor was the tickle in his throat that made him cough. Blood droplets spattered about. Oh God, his bloody nose got in his mouth. That's gross. The boy fainted. Just slumped on the ground like a dropped sack of potatoes. Way to make an impression. Izuku quickly and quietly slunk into the classroom before anyone could notice him. He can try the power thing again later. Fear polluted the room. The air was sharp, bitter, but felt heavy on the shoulders and fat in the lungs. Cold so chilling, Katsuki could feel his skin shift and his hairs raise. It was corrupted air, thick miasma, that leaked across the classroom. A wrongness that he could feel in his bones. It polluted the environment with something that made Katsuki feel sick and agitated. It pricked his eyes and prickled his skin. As red met green, Katsuki realized where the feeling came from. Thank whatever granted his small pleads of mercy that those eyes weren't clouded. Even that couldn't save Katsuki from his sins. His mouth refused to work. To say something. Anything. His gums felt fizzy like he'd just bitten into an ice cube. Bile was creeping up his throat. He didn't know what to do. And that was how Katsuki found himself sitting at his desk, numbly gazing at the chalkboard, as all his regrets burrowed into his back. Driven in by those not-so-empty eyes. He couldn't handle whatever this was. He couldn't do it. It was easier to drown in anger than choke on this writhing disgust. It was easier to have his blood boil than feel shame. Why the heck is he so angry? He's always angry. He just hates me more than anyone else. That just makes me have more questions. Are you asking why he hates me? To be honest, I only have a few ideas. Izuku half-focused on Danny, waited for his name in roll call. The atmosphere of the room was stilted. His peers seemed either confused or freaked out. Consistently looking over at him, only to quickly look away once their eyes met green. The sensei's eyes flitted about the room, tense by the behavior of his students. Kaken just seemed to get more and more angry as the time droned on. Shoulders stiffening only to forcefully relax. Izuku already knew most of the material. It was coming to the end of the first term. This was mostly review before the summer holiday. 10 months before senior schooling and, hopefully, attending UE with Danny's help. Maybe they should get more focused on a training schedule? We can deal with that later. I do want to know why he might dislike you, even though nothing is an excuse for treating someone like a punching bag. It's kinda embarrassing? I mean, I'd always cling on to him when we were younger. Ever when I was the butt of most of his jokes. He was my first friend and my first crush. I tried to tell him how I felt and he shut me down immediately. Said I was creepy and stupid and worthless. It broke my heart to know someone I cared for so much seemed to hate me. I can understand telling someone no, that's perfectly logical. And I'm pretty plain. You have green hair. That's not plain in my world. Well, the point is that I was annoying and didn't have a quirk. Doesn't give him a right to use you as target practice. If anything, he could have just said no. I didn't even get to confess to him. He just shut down the conversation. Izuku could feel a mild blush on his cheeks, eyes firmly on his notes. They looked good enough, but he'd still double-check with the textbook later. Never hurt to add to your notes, right? Well, let's get off that topic. You just confirmed he's just a bully for the heck of it. Anyway, something more important is this. What's the story we're telling? Confusion trickles through the link. What do you mean? Izuku asks. Powers don't show up out of nowhere for you guys. So, it's genetic, right? And since I have a well of powers, it'd be weird for you to publicly show all of them. We agreed to a few already, but we definitely need to re-clarify. Embarrassment leaked through their bond, especially since I ended up showing off a bit. You should also always have something up your sleeve that no one knows about. It's good to bring this up now. It'd be awful if someone got suspicious, which was more likely to happen given his quirkless status. A clean page was turned to, like Izuku was going to take more notes. Technically he was. Just not on classwork. It was getting close to the end of class. Izuku was going to review his notes over later anyway. Well, to start with, my mother has telekinesis. As you've mentioned before, she's able to pull small objects towards her like a planet with a strong gravitational pull. She hasn't shown if she can hold an orbit over the small objects, though it's doubtful. Her eyes glitter a little when using said quirk. Abnormally so. Like seeing sparks from flint strikes. It never catches fire, but still shows an outward activation of said power. Okay, that was really good. Thank you. No need to be smug. Izuku tried not to snort. Don't kid me. I saw your notebooks. I may not understand Japanese, but the way it was laid out, you were obviously assessing other people and their powers. You, of all people, would understand the need for this. I do. Izuku wasn't going to say thank you for the hidden compliment, but it still felt nice. Going back on topic, my dad had a type of pyrokinesis, but he could only breathe fire. It's not common. Neither are. Huh? That's pretty cool. I have cryokinesis. It's unique to me in my world. My enemy had a core that tasted like fire, but he never used it on me. I don't know if he knew he had it. I don't think he ever really found out about me having elemental abilities either. What powers don't you have? A lot. As I just said, despite creating plasma blasts or structures, I don't have fire or electrical affinities. I don't have control over water either, despite having it over ice. Ground and plants are much the same, I don't have a hand for it. I can't control emotions, though I can mentally connect with or overshadow someone. I may physically be one of the strongest in your world, but I doubt I am the strongest. I still need food. I still need to sleep. I'm not unfailing. And because I'm part ghost, and ghosts are driven and thrive by their obsessions, when I fail in protecting others it can act as a physical wound. Mental and emotional pain is worse than physical pain to a being made of the metaphysical. This can cause me to lose control or even lose powers, though temporarily. A loaded pause halts Izuku. Your emotions may affect how well you can use my powers. They may even affect my use of my powers. Well, I guess I'm going to have to learn to not be a crybaby, huh? Izuku meant it in a teasing way, but it couldn't mask his fear and trepidation. It is completely healthy to cry. It's not healthy to keep it all in. We can use my levitation, telekinesis, and maybe other powers. We can play it off as a stronger form of your mother's quirk. Izuku mentally righted himself. Some people can have two powers. From both parents. And you've already shown plasma. We can save that for later. No one needs to know right now. Besides the doctor. We can play it off as your powers being stronger due to recent activation. Probably for the best. And then the bell rang. We can talk more about this later if you want. No, I don't usually eat lunch at school. We can keep going right here. You're going to have to change that quickly. Your body will need a lot to help sustain it when we work out. We can come up with a plan for that later. I really don't want to be near other people for right now. A shadow fell over the greenette, who peeked from under his bangs to see burning red eyes. What the F dash, you useless piece of sheet, was practically hissed out. What did I do, Kakin? Izuku could feel anger start to form in the other boy. You gonna throw yourself out another window, you effing coward? You can't take getting the sheet kicked out of you, so you try to kill yourself? Oh no. This wasn't going to end well. Izuku was crushed under the weight of Katsuki's hate and Danny's building anger, scrunched in on himself and shaking. Danny was beginning to seethe. Power itched under Izuku's skin. The Katsuki ugly sneered. And after all that, you're still FING useless. You tried to take my advice, huh? And you even failed to kill yourself. And a small burst of power violently tossed Katsuki into the chalkboard, only to land on his face in the floor. Gasps echoed and Izuku further shrank in on himself. Hee hee. Katsuki then coughed and slowly got back up. So, you finally have a quirk? He tossed his head back and laughed harder. It slowly calmed down, leaving strangely satisfied red eyes. Guess I was right. You just need the right push. He smirked and swaggered back to his seat. It took a while for Izuku to calm from his shaking. His peers left him alone for the rest of the lunch. And the rest of the day. Katsuki didn't try to stop him from leaving either. Sir, I have to inform you of something. I'm not too sure about. Oh, did you find a new quirk? Of a sort. I had an old patient come in. One I previously diagnosed as Quirkless. He came in with what I thought was a late quirk. But, no matter how many times I scanned his DNA, I could find no traces of a quirk factor. That is interesting. Though, you wouldn't be calling me if this was all you had. No, sir. You see, I, found something else in the child's DNA. Doesn't seem to be fully human. F-dash, 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 F-dash. Why? Why did he say that? Great job, Katsuki, you FING moron. I mean, yeah, I was technically right. Taking a swan dive off the roof did get him a quirk. And isn't that awful? Having a quirk come out due to stress is one of the most heinous actions a person could have done to them. When a quirk factor that didn't give the holder a quirk was around, it was usually due to the factor being damaged, too weak, or too strong. Very rarely did activation not happen until later in life. All other late quirk activations occurred when the body, mind, and factor could sustain it. Some might say that nearly dying could be an activation. But that wasn't even possible in this case, seeing as this wasn't a type of healing quirk. Which meant Izuku would have to be driven to the point that his factor activated without the ability to sustain itself. Izuku's body could possibly collapse in on itself with the strain. These facts didn't stop the smug satisfaction of being right. And the nerd could actually achieve something now. He might actually be a challenge now. And that got his blood pumping. He wanted to fight the nerd, but even he knew that it was too soon. Maybe he'd wait and see if the other got into a hero school. Then, it's game on. Izuku was glad that there was a dumpster at the beach's parking lot. It meant he just had to pick up the trash and put it in the bin. And when it got full, Izuku would call the collection agency to come to get it tomorrow morning. Which let him fill it. Again. They weren't going to question how a fridge was deconstructed and disposed of. And Danny had been right. Learning how to gently take apart something really helped strengthen his borrowed telekinesis. Instead of lifting something with his mind, he had to turn and twist and wriggle things to get them apart. Though, Danny did take most of the wires and a few other things. They also learned in the past weeks that Danny could learn faster if attached to the person who knew how to do what needed to be learned, Izuku, while they did it. Learning a new language was still difficult, but Danny was able to hear conversations and pick up patterns in the speech. But Danny was better with numbers than with most other subjects. When Izuku would go home after using a variety of powers that barely scratched the surface of his half-human partners, he'd sometimes realize he wasn't eating as much. Sometimes he'd ask Danny to leave his body and explore around so that he could practice what power he gained. It wasn't much, but he could push a car off to the side and lift small fridges to the dumpster. He'd do this especially when he felt like someone was watching. The feeling was increasing over the days. It made Danny agitated. It made Izuku want to vomit. Who was watching? Why were they watching? What do they want? What are they planning? When Izuku and Danny weren't connected, sometimes he'd try to stir his tea. Moving the spoon with his mind was slow and occasionally nausea-inducing. He could lift lightweight objects, but they were hard to hold. Heavy objects were the opposite, easy to hold, but hard to lift. Water was bullshit. Sometimes he'd stay up late at night. Danny would try to sleep or was floating somewhere. Or was playing with a pile of scrap for the beach. Or was stargazing. Izuku would sometimes join him, he wasn't sleeping much either. Light pollution used to be a reason he'd only stargaze when camping as a child. But it was getting easier to see the stars. Lying awake in bed was another way to see the faint glowing of veins at his wrist, though it only occurred after pushing himself farther. Watching the glow at night, dim as it was, confirmed how hard he worked, and how much he could do on his own when the time would come. It was not visible in Danny's presence, who was a thrumming, ever-changing, shifting light that made Izuku realize how he felt like he got to sleep next to a living, breathing star. Izuku found old holographic stickers when he went through his old boxes. He had been putting up some of his merch. Not because Danny disliked how passionate Izuku was about becoming a hero, but because of how angry the sight of All Might made the other boy. Especially since it made Izuku feel sad every time he reflected on that day. Danny was quick to ask if Izuku used the stickers or was saving them. The way his eyes glowed and scrunched into a smile made Izuku feel just as giddy. Waking up in the morning with stickers on his freckles was probably one of the best ways to start his morning before school started. Why 2 toothpaste? Danny was catching Japanese quicker than Izuku thought he would. Which was good, since that meant that they didn't need to be connected 24/7 to communicate. Though, it's definitely weird now that Izuku had gotten used to having someone in his head all the time. They still stayed attached while Izuku was at school, and for half of his training, but it wasn't the same. It was so Danny could repeat on his own and prove he learned, but it was still an uncomfortable sensation. Why 2 kinds of toothpaste? Danny paused, eyes shifting upward like he was trying to connect something in his head. Yes. Why 2 kinds of toothpaste? One is for the morning. One is for the night. Izuku slowly explained, hoping the shorter sentences would help. Why? This one, Izuku holds up the one he was using, is for the morning. It is mint, citrus. Izuku points to the orange depicted on the package. The mention of the mixture caused Danny to shudder, and a few other things. Like, Danny reattached his tail to the base of Izuku's skull so he could understand the words. Settling under the familiar feeling, Izuku continues. It's mint, citrus. Izuku felt Danny's disgust. Ginseng, green tea, and vitamin B. It gets you a little boost to wake up and protects enamel. The night one, Izuku then lifts the next tube, is spearmint with chamomile, valerian, and sereno repens. It helps clean and soothe your mouth after the day. Both promote general health. Well, that's definitely different from my time. Not everyone uses these specifically. But using just a solid mint with fluoride isn't seen much anymore. It was always the little conversations that showed these differences. Hey, do pandas still exist? Sorry. They went extinct a long time ago. I think almost 200 years have passed since they stopped trying to clone one into re-existence. Izuku felt so bad seeing Danny wilt. For a person with no real face, he was very expressive. I really wanted to see one. Wait, what do you mean, no real face? Izuku stood, gobsmacked. He didn't know how to break it to the poor boy. Izuku, I have a face. In this form, a normal human, or even a contaminated one apparently, you can't really make it out. Your brain can't process it. I do have a face though. In this form? I'm still half human, remember? Well, yes. But, are you saying that you can shift your face? Izuku, I can fully shift between human and ghost. Danny was wondering how they got to this point. I guess this is my fault, huh? Well, how about it? Your mom's out shopping right now. I can just show you my human half? That would probably help. Izuku shook his head. How did you not tell me this? I admit I forgot. Danny rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. He completely detached from Izuku, forming legs and standing on the floor. Which was, frankly, weird to see at this point. A ring of light appeared at his middle. Splitting into two, they ran opposite ways. Going from black, white, and green to black, white and blue. Well, at least this one had skin. And had a form that wasn't composed of unholy light from a plane of death. How long have you been wearing those jeans? Escaped his mouth before he even made a cohesive thought. Since before here? Danny choppily said in Japanese. Yeah, no. Izuku charged to his room and proceeded to root through his dresser. As Danny entered the room, Izuku threw a pair of workout shorts and a baggy tee at the other boy. Take those nasty clothes off. I'll toss them in the wash. Seeing this version smile was somehow just as warming as the ghost side smile. Except Izuku could see actual blue eyes peek out from under black hair. Which reminded him. Actually, don't put those clothes on yet. Go take a shower. How can you go for nearly 2 months without bathing? It's barely 20 minutes later. Izuku feels like he's made a mistake. Danny is taller than Izuku, with more definition on his muscles. Light scars zigzag up his arm and little starbursts pepper everywhere else. They look similar to Izuku's. Danny has widely dispersed beauty marks here and there, peeking from where the shirt lifted. Maybe light freckles as well? When Izuku first met Danny, the older boy was only an inch or so taller than him. But now that difference really is showing. Danny was almost a whole head taller than him. The only consultation for Izuku is the 300 years in evolution making everyone taller. The average height in Japanese men was 170 centimeters, or 5 feet 7 inches, and the average height for Americans was 175, or 5 feet 9 inches, back in Danny's time. Now, though, a Japanese man is usually 6 feet 4 inches and an American is 6 foot so, there was a good chance that, even if Izuku was shorter compared to his peers in adulthood, he'd be as tall as Danny. But for now, Izuku was 5 feet 5 inches and Danny was probably 5 foot. Once fluffy, black hair is now slicked back by water. It kinda made Danny look dangerous. Or classy. Maybe the better word was powerful? But that sounds too pretentious. He looked like a gymnast. If a gymnast got stuck in the apocalypse and had to fight tooth and nail to survive for a couple years. 'Cause he knows Danny doesn't need to eat much, given his condition. But still, the older boy was way too thin. Like he hadn't eaten nearly anything in a long time. Good thing Izuku made lunch. Though he'd almost popped the fried eggs when he tried to put them on top of the fried rice. Ever since her cousin disappeared, the world was slowly getting worse. Vlad's manipulations could only go so far. Humans had been lulled into false security, believing the ghost hunters that had been employed would do the job. And for a time it did. Most of the older populace of Amity Park was practically overjoyed to spit at Phantom's efforts. The younger had stuck by their hero, till they had deemed the human ghost hunters a better fit. A mass of smear campaigns made one issue after the other rise to deface the ghost boy. Then, when stronger ghosts came through the portal and the ghost hunters couldn't keep up with them all, Phantom was called a coward for hiding. A true hero would rise to the occasion. He was only in it for fame. Only for Phantom to fend off a ghost too powerful for any hunter to subdue. The fight was long and dangerous, leaving citizens no choice except to evacuate. By the time the battle was over, much of the town was ruined and the blame was placed, once again, on the ghost boy, who disappeared quickly after. Then came the bright idea to close the portal, which would have made a difference when this had all started. Contamination of ectoplasmic radiation layered the town and its people, though. This meant that since there was no main portal anymore, ghosts could emerge from naturally occurring ones, which made the ghosts that did come through more aggressive. And the government deemed that people could no longer enter or leave the town, due to the possibility of it spreading, which was aided by the discovery that the mayor's mansion in Wisconsin was also a hazard due to a similar portal. That lab was destroyed to keep people from getting contaminated, seeing as wildlife in the area were coming back as ghosts. It was brought up that Amity Park might have a defined line of contamination due to the probability that it was considered a ghost's haunt, meaning that a very powerful ghost had claimed it as territory. Which would explain why ghosts that entered the town would immediately want to fight. And because they called for Phantom, it wasn't difficult to lay the problem onto someone else's shoulders. When Daniel James Fenton, son of well-known ghost hunters, went missing and the main portal was destroyed, the town went into an uproar. Hunting became more aggressive. Val, the Red Huntress, and Jazz, Danny's sister, became some of the only people she could talk to. Sam and Tucker were banned by Jazz from coming anywhere near the house. Whenever Ellie tried to ask about it, Jazz would say that she'd tell her later. She'd hear the other girl mutter about footage from the house revealing true colors. Ellie had a feeling the two had a hand in some of this, so she didn't talk to the other teens. Said teens joined Vlad's hunters. Val was being shamed for her betrayal and siding with ghosts. It was getting more and more difficult to hide from the eldest alpha. Ghosts were chasing her down in the hopes of their own gain. A large bounty on her head. She has no doubts that with Danny gone, Vlad wants to complete the experiments from before. The only bright side to all of this was that some of the ghosts that respected or liked Danny would come to visit. Kyujo was such a good boy. Wolf was kind. Both could make their own portals, which is how others visited or how she went to go visit them. Ellie wasn't traveling the world anymore, too dangerous for the time being. She remembered breaking down crying with Kyujo in her arms. It was getting too much for her. The puppy in her arms whimpered, sad that Ellie was so heartbroken. A soft whimper bark broke her out of her sadness for a moment. She smiled down at the loyal pooch in her lap. Wet and watery, she laughed. "You're such a good boy. You try so hard to make me happy and protect me, just like Danny. I really miss him, you know? I bet you do too. I just wish I could find Danny. No place feels like home without being able to go to him." "Br?" Kyujo inquired, tilting his head as if to think. He suddenly perked up, happy he could maybe help. A quick, happy bark and he jumped out of her lap. Tail wagging, he started sniffing around the room, which had been Danny's before Jazz let her hide here to rest. "What are you? Oh, why didn't I think of that? You can sniff Danny out. Here." She dug through a hamper of dirty clothes, pulling out a shirt from the bottom. Bringing it over to let Kyujo sniff, she continued, "Will you help me find Danny? If anyone can, it's you." A bark was given, a portal ripped open, a scruff behind his ear for good luck, and the room was empty. "Find him, Kyujo. I know you can." And with that, she ran off to tell Jazz. Despite Yagi's hero persona, never let it be said that he wasn't a coward. How do you face a suicidal child you essentially talked into jumping? He felt dirty, like sewage scum has grimed his soul. And when Yagi found the kid cleaning the beach, the icky feeling creeped up his throat, preventing him from speaking to the boy. That talk needed to happen soon. The longer he waited, the less time he had to train the kid, if he accepted Yagi's offer. From his observations, it seems Midoriya did have a quirk, which meant that it was very likely he gained it when he tried to, which is awful. Quirks gained after the initial first one, or later in life than normal, tend to cause damage to the wielder's mind and body. If it's activated through stressful situations, it can be even worse. What with how he acts, Midoriya is likely untrusting of everyone, right now, and probably hasn't gone to a quirk counselor or trainer. Which means the little bit of practice he gets on the beach is all he has. And if Yagi confronts Midoriya, and the boy doesn't feel safe, he won't come to the beach. Which means he most likely won't train his new quirk. And that could be detrimental to Izuku's physical and mental well-being. The only way around the problem would be to catch him outside of school boundaries, so he doesn't think he's being stalked, and away from the beach, so he still has a safe place to go to. Much more difficult to actually follow through with, due to the boy's instincts telling him when he's being followed and thus disappearing quickly. Midoriya has good instincts that would definitely be valuable to his future career, though. Yagi is thankful for that, despite having similar reasons as to why he has such great instincts. It's rather sad when one decides to think about it. Yagi does a little snooping and finds that, while Midoriya has confirmed he has a quirk in his documents, he has yet to name it. Under the terms that he is still discovering exactly what it does. Minor telekinesis and temporary plasma constructs are at the top of the list, as confirmed by a mandatory doctor's visit. Yagi checks the date of the appointment, nauseated to confirm exactly how the quirk activated. A little more reading reveals that, somehow, the activation of his quirk changes his body's normal conditions. Different temperature, different heart rate, even changing the structure of his blood. It's for the best if Yagi asks Midoriya before he comes up with a name, so it can just seem to be another part of his newly discovered quirk. Quirk registration was an event Izuku never thought he'd have. Now he got to, and it wasn't even for a quirk. So, of course, he was going to stall. He didn't know what to name his quirk, and calling his new powers Phantom was out of the question. He was presenting his powers as stronger versions of his parents' quirks of telekinesis and pyrokinesis. Danny, obviously, wanted it to be space-themed. Though, a problem arose when Izuku suggested Pluto. Look, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but using the name of a god is not only cliché, but tacky as well. Cheesy names and puns are completely fine, but probably not the best either. I was called Invisible before I made my name more public, a pun on ghost invisibility. At Izuku's grimace, Danny's cheeky grin returned with a pft and snort. Yeah, exactly. A hero name, and subsequently power names, should all be able to be said without it being ridiculous. If a 12-year-old came up to you and said their name was Zeus because they can control lightning, or that their power was called Eris's apple because they can create general chaos and their favorite fruit was an apple, you wouldn't be able to take them seriously. It's best to avoid names from gods, mythos, or historical figures. Otherwise, you have to live up to the name and embody it or succeed it in grandeur. Also, Pluto sounds like the name of a dog. But Dash? Your name is Phantom. And the only reason you brought up a dog is because of a multimedia empire that wormed its gloved fingers into everything, even healthcare and politics. Heck, there's still dredges of their influence today, despite most people learning their part in World War III and the quirk discrimination. Which I'll live up to by being dead. Also, it was my way of pulling a Clark Kent. Fenton and Phantom are so similar sounding and look alike, but personalities are so different that you'd look at all the evidence and toss it out the window. I also need some history articles on that Disney stuff. Holy shit. I wonder how it could still pop up if everyone who was influenced by it is dead. That makes sense. But we also shouldn't use names like Black Hole or X. That could sound cool as names for smaller or infrequently used powers, but sound too cheesy otherwise. Yeah, it's weird. Like a rich immortal is still buying Disney merch. Probably. Agreed. Hey Midoriya. What perfect timing. And all Izuku could do was freeze. Danny wanted to see the retro arcade and maybe play through possessing more of Izuku's motor functions. Having fun and testing the limits between them. He also wanted to see the space theme they had going for laser tag. They both saw the blonde hero's deflated form playing old Paper Mario games and decided to ignore him. But that clearly didn't work. It's nice to see you again. I wanted to tell you that I was wrong. Heh. Dumbfounded and confused didn't cover how the two felt. Which let All Might continue. I was wrong in my assessment of you. You more than proved that you don't need a quirk to be a hero when you saved that boy from the sludge villain. Biba Dash? I broke the law. To save another person when no one else would. Your morals overcame your better judgment. You took the risk because, if it could save someone, it was worth any punishment. Those are better morals than the heroes that were there and did nothing but wait for more heroes. Oh, okay. Izuku was shrinking in on himself, looking like a tomato. The green hair really added to it. Then Ku? Thank you. Your act of bravery reminded me why I became a hero. Which leads me to asking you the question I wanted to ask you for a while now. Will you do me the honors of teaching and training you to become a hero? Yes. Danny wasn't happy that he was being usurped by the giraffe, but was much more tolerant towards the man after apologizing. Most adults hate having their authority questioned or disregarded, refusing to admit when they do something wrong. Humility didn't absolve him of his actions, though. Offering Izuku his transferable quirk was definitely a great deal. One that he knew Izuku could use well. That night is spent giddy on the roof of the complex, staring up into the night sky. Izuku is able to see more stars every night compared to the last. Hey, Danny? I think I know what I want to name my quirk as. Izuku mumbles, still buzzing and wide-eyed, but quiet in contemplation and awe. What was that word that is like the real-life version of the stars aligning and fate? An aspect. Yeah, that's it. It's perfect. Would you mind me asking why? It's 'cause everything feels like some kind of fate or destiny coming together. Out of all of time and space, you managed to come to my world, into my life, choosing me. I know it won't remain idealistic forever. I feel guilty that I'm kinda happy you left your world and decided to stay with me. I thought we were going to steer away from cheesy names. Izuku's embarrassment showed his freckles glowed more brightly with his blushing. Don't worry. I feel the same way. Aspect it is. Now we just need to make our hero names. Following All Might's training regimen was too easy after a week. The hero looked mildly surprised, but advanced small parts to see if Izuku really needed a more intense training schedule. Which, alright, Danny had to admit that it was easier to train when you had someone who knows what they're doing. Better than getting beat into a wall and hoping you don't stick. The Halfa decided to join in as his human side. Obviously, only either at home or at night. While Izuku was looking at the stars or another gadget, Danny worked together. Danny was trained in a variety of martial arts hodgepodge together by his mother, weapons training by his father, and his sister may not have been a professional psychologist yet, but she was one of the best he knew when it came to the mind, leading to an increase in food intake for both boys. Which meant that Danny taught Izuku how to cook more. And Izuku decided that meant he had to teach the other how to make desserts. It was always interesting in the kitchen when the two collided. Danny loved fried ice cream. Izuku was happily surprised by a classic Chicago-style popcorn. Danny tried to make katsudon for Izuku, but the boy was slightly horrified when he heard about double frying the pork cutlets. Izuku tried to make pumpkin pie, but the crust shrunk so bad and became a miniature, and there was so much filling left that they decided to cook it and then put it into yogurt, which was really good. The training progress Izuku went through also had the effect of binding the ectoplasm more firmly into his muscle tissue and blood. Whereas Danny will probably always appear lanky, even though he does have a few more years of aging before his body freezes in time. But he'll always be on the lanky side. Izuku, despite being a little short, will at least be more muscular. Danny, though, may gain his dad's massive height if Dan had been an indication. Vlad's muscles and Danny's full-aged height both shrunk to even out between them. And Danny really needs to bring this up to Izuku. 'Cause Danny will freeze when he's done with development, probably between 23 and Izuku might take longer. Seeing as he's the sole recipient of ectoplasmic radiation and is contained due to their temporary symbiosis. Exposure is slow working. If Danny left now, Izuku could get very sick. And Danny could become stressed as well. Explaining that to Izuku also brought up the fact neither of them really talked this through. Sure, they talked some, but there was still much to go through. So, if I'll get sick, maybe even die, if you're not connected to me for too long? What's that limit? I don't know, and honestly don't want to find out. I haven't left you for more than an hour, or so, at a time because of this. Yeah, I notice that you get stressed if I take long showers or if we lose track of time while training. Izuku's contemplation was palpable. Danny obviously kept quiet as Izuku worked through what he wanted to ask. So, if I can change through radiation exposure to your ectoplasm, will others also be at risk for exposure when I fully turn? Ectoplasm tends to stay in an area where it's generated. Ghosts do generate a small amount, as it's connected to the conscience in their core. Most ghosts stay in the zone so their forms have enough energy to exist without feeding of their core. They generally have a lair where their own ectoplasm mixes with the natural atmosphere of the zone. Then what about you? Is it because you're a Halfa that you don't need to be in the zone? Since you already have a physical form that doesn't rely on ectoplasm. Izuku is rapidly writing down the information, theories, and questions in his My Quirk analysis. Danny really wants to figure out how Izuku does that without the other noticing. Yes and no. I don't need to be in the zone because of my human half. But because I have that human half, I don't have a lair. Due to my powers forming over time, the area around me also became affected to eventually simulate one. I think I should explain something before continuing. Izuku pauses, then turns to a blank page to continue. Ghosts can stay in the realms of the living. They need an anchor to do so. That anchor usually aligns with their obsession or their death. You've probably heard of haunted houses. Those are real. I guess that would explain more about folklore and paranormal. Page flipped. How does he take so many notes? A place can be much more difficult to turn into a haunted than an object. At least, most of the time. Size and how many are collectively trying to haunt one thing can change how difficult it is. I used to have a small town. My hometown. That was the place I died, and related to the focus of my obsession was my haunt. Being away from my haunt makes me a lot weaker, since I don't have a steady supply of ectoplasm. And what with me being a ghost constantly, I'm losing a lot of power. Quickly. Which is why you didn't have me training with what was beyond the basics. Wait, if you're losing so much ectoplasm, why are you using it on me? That got him to stop writing, looking up at the Halfa in worry and disbelief. Thanks for the worry. You're retaining ectoplasm on your own, even if only for a while. Soon, you'll be creating your own ectoplasm instead of looping mine. You're already doing it a bit. Ectoplasm isn't affecting the area around you because you're retaining it. You don't have to worry about exposure for anyone else. You've become a conduit for my ectoplasm, and in turn, I'm becoming a conduit for yours. No energy wasted. I'm haunting you. All Katsuki has done lately is make sure that he gets into UA and watch Deku. Katsuki is still vindicated over being right. He always was when it came to the other boy. And if Deku thought he was better than him, now that he has a quirk, Katsuki can't wait to kick his butt back into the ground. The notebooks don't make as much of an appearance anymore. Deku sits straighter, shoulders back, stony expression 2 seconds away from anger. He may not mumble anymore, but you can still tell when he does so in his head. The furrowing of his brows and thinning of his mouth has made the extras around him cringe or watch on wearily. Deku has also done more physical training, what with how the others' clothes don't fit the same. Everyone was afraid to PSS the loser off. The teachers even avoiding calling on him. Some flinched when all his focus was on them. Deku still has good grades. And that feeling of terror still perfumed the air around the other. Not like he noticed. Maybe it was part of his quirk and he didn't know how to turn it off yet? Or, more likely, didn't even know that it was happening. With all that, Katsuki would have thought it was a blessing that Deku didn't focus on Kaken anymore. The other thinks he's too good to look in Katsuki's direction. Now that he has a quirk, he doesn't need to focus on anyone else, despite them being better than he was. Katsuki is stronger. He doesn't mind reminding the fucker of this fact. This was something I was told once. Something you receive because you're lucky and something you are given because you are recognized are different in essence. All Might said, the strand of hair he plucked glimmering between his pinched fingers. Is All Might's hair affected by his quirk, or does he just have super healthy hair? It seems to stand up on its own when the quirk is activated. His idol brings his hand closer to Izuku. Eat this. That's so disgusting. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as you take in my DNA. All Might seemed sheepish he didn't bring this up before, rubbing his neck. I'm disconnecting. It's disgusting, yeah, but don't leave me to this. I don't know how your body, or mine, will react. I'd rather you be the one to get this, anyway. Don't even try to pretend that's the reason. It is. I don't want more power. I'm already close to OP for your world. While All Might thought Izuku shivered in revulsion, it was really because Danny dipped out. His body is unused to the unnatural chill not being there. For Danny, though, time slowed and stopped just as Izuku was about to ingest the blonde strand. He could feel the weight of someone's gaze if just for a moment. Most would be terrified. And he was. But he was also grateful. Danny smiled up at the sky, hoping to convey his appreciation towards the Time Master. I should have guessed you were behind this. As he looked back towards the scene in front of him, Danny realized he didn't mind this meddling in his life. Too much any. Of course, Clockwork would have had a hand in this. Thank you. And time continued on.